deep dive into some of the common entry-level roles, because obviously some of the other roles, like chief data officer, you need to be qualified to get into it. So I want to talk about some of the roles that you could just go into it after graduating, or if you're switching careers. So the first role you could actually go into in terms of either straight away or from graduation or from college, or switching careers, is data engineer. And what the data engineer does, if you look at their job description roughly, is they do pipeline construction. So they build, maintain automated, what we call extract, transform, load, or extract, load, transform processes. So basically they move data from one place to another. That's their job. So they will create what we call data pipelines to move data from one place to another. They then do data integration. So they connect those data sources together using APIs, using connectors, internal database, and put it in one place. So like I said in the diagram before, they would put it usually in a cloud infrastructure, or a data lake, or a data warehouse, or a combination of something called a data lake house. So they try and bring it all together. They also make sure that it's reliable, because what they don't want to do is look at these pipelines. So what they do is they build pipelines and integrations that just run. Okay, so they don't crash when there's lots of traffic. These pipelines that just keep running. They're bringing in data all the time, and you can just sort of leave it to it. And they'll only get involved if things need to change, or they need to add new data sources. They also, a lot of the time, they spend cleaning data, writing code to handle missing values, duplicates, and that kind of stuff. So they're trying to make sure that the basic data cleansing is happening. And there's two reasons for that. One is obviously to make sure that the data goes through is useful. The second thing is to get rid of redundant data that's just going to take up space that you don't necessarily need. And then finally, they do a lot of optimization. They tune databases to ensure queries run in seconds rather than minutes. Because like I said, a lot of these systems in the commercial space are trillions of rows of data, and so they need to make sure that these are optimized to run quickly. So that's the typical job description of a data engineer. And what you need in order to be a data engineer is advanced SQL and Python skills. So SQL is structured query language. It's a language that's used to query databases, and then Python, which is a generic language that can, not only can you build applications in that, but you can also analyze any type of data, structured, unstructured, so forth. Okay. You also need to have an understanding of JSON and APIs and connector technologies, because you're bringing in data from different places. You need to understand relational modeling, because when you bring data together, it's not always like you see in Excel. You have to connect those data sets and create some kind of normalization and reduce redundancy. Redundancy is basically duplication. So you wouldn't duplicate data. You'd design the relational modeling to ensure that there's no duplication of data. You've also got dimensional modeling, so mastering what we call star schemas, what are fact and what are dimension tables. So, what describes something and what is a metric for something, you would be building that. They also need to understand the difference between data warehouse, structured like Snowflake, data lake, or a lake house, hybrid of both, because that will determine where they put the data, because certain data would be best suited for certain places. And one of the reasons you need to be very good at this is because it costs a lot of money. If people talk about the cloud being cheap, it is cheap when you've only got a few thousand, a few million rows of data. When you get into the billions and trillions of rows of data, it becomes very, very expensive. So they need to have a knowledge of a cloud platform. It can be one. You just need to pick one. They're all pretty much the same. They operate in a very similar way. You can also transfer your skills from one to another. They're very common in how they operate. Knowing how to move files into an S3 bucket and a trigger function, so basically moving things into a place. They need to have orchestration tools, so understand orchestration tools like Apache Airflow or Dagster. Well, these are basically tools that allow you to sequence events, because when you've got data, it has to come in a certain order. You can't just dump everything. There's a sequence of events that needs to happen, and these tools allow that orchestration. Then you need to be able to do good with transformation tools like dbt, which basically takes the data in the form that you get it and transforms it into tables and databases that the business can use. And then obviously optimization of tuning databases to ensure queries run in seconds rather than minutes. Now, the kind of person that will be suited for this role is if you've got a computer science background, or if you've got some kind of background where you did a lot of coding, okay? And also the other stuff, things like understanding cloud, understanding orchestration tools. That's more of a personal interest, right? If you have coding skills and you were going to build yourself a website, you would have a natural interest in understanding cloud technologies, because you need cloud technologies nowadays to do a lot of sort of website hosting and even database hosting. So, you know, you'll be someone who's from a computer science background or something, a technical background like an engineering background, who you know has, or in their course or in their experience, have built or have developed very advanced SQL and Python knowledge. Now, if you have an advanced knowledge of another programming language, it's very easy to transfer that over to SQL and Python. You could potentially do a very short course and you'd be very good at it. But you need to have that mindset of coding, very good structure in your head, very analytical, very good at sequencing events. Okay, so you need to be the kind of person who can organize their mind into thinking about things in a logical way. Okay, so those are sort of data engineers. So if you are going to go into that space, then you know you need to come from a very technical background if you want the best chance of getting into that space.